I knew something was off the second Morgan walked through the door. Not because she said something strange or because of some dramatic scene, it was subtler than that. She didn't even look surprised to see me. Just floated inside like she lived alone, like she didn't expect anyone to be waiting. Her dress caught the light first. Deep red. Tight in a way she hadn't dressed in years. Not since before the wedding, maybe not even then. The kind of dress that made strangers turn their heads. Strapless, clean neckline, hem cut just above the knee. Nothing outrageous, but intentional. It clung to her like a secret. She wasn't dressed for dinner with friends. I didn't say anything at first. Just watched her move through the house fluid, distracted. She tossed her keys onto the entryway shelf with a kind of practiced indifference, then slid her heels off like she couldn't wait to be done with the night. Her makeup was heavier than usual, smoky eyes, bronzed cheeks, lips so red they almost matched the dress. The lipstick was slightly smudged at one corner, and beneath her right eye there was a faint, hurried smear, like she'd tried to wipe something away in the car. And around her neck, a necklace. Delicate, gold, something small and intricate at the center. I didn't recognize it. I hadn't bought it. I would have remembered. "Hey," I said gently, unsure how else to start. "Hey," she replied, too quickly. She didn't stop walking. "You're back late." She glanced at the microwave clock. "Dinner ran long," she said. "We did dessert." It turned into one of those nights. One of those nights? I repeated, more to myself than her. She nodded, moving toward the bedroom, already unzipping her dress halfway up the back as she disappeared down the hallway. She didn't ask how my evening was. Didn't ask what I'd eaten. Didn't ask anything. For a while, I stood alone in the living room, trying to reconcile the image of her I'd just seen with the woman I thought I knew. Morgan didn't own clothes like that. At least not recently. Her wardrobe had shifted over the years, practical, comfortable, understated. Nothing flashy. And her friends? Two were in Atlanta for a conference, I was sure of it. I had heard her mention it on the phone days earlier. Another had just had surgery on her knee. That left. Who? Eventually, I sat down on the couch where she'd left her coat. That's when I noticed it, the scent. Something strong. Masculine. Not my cologne and definitely not one of her usual perfumes. This was something else. It clung to the fabric like sweat, sharp, woody, expensive. The kind of cologne you spray once and smell for hours. I lifted the coat slightly, held it for a moment, just breathing in the unfamiliarity of it. I wasn't trying to catch her. I didn't want to catch her. I just couldn't explain it away. When she came back out dressed down in her old pajamas, gray cotton pants, and a faded college t-shirt, the transformation was startling. Like the woman in the red dress had been a mirage. Her makeup was gone, her hair tied back, skin bare and washed. She looked like the version of Morgan I knew. Safe. Familiar. And that's when I brought it up carefully. "Did someone at the restaurant spill something on you?" I asked, trying to sound casual. She looked confused. "What?" "Your coat. It smells like cologne." She blinked. "Oh. Yeah. No, some guy must have been sitting close. It was packed." That place always gets crowded on weekends," she added. No emotion in her voice. Not irritated. Not defensive. Just clinical. Like she was reading from a script. I nodded slowly. "Which place did you guys go to?" She hesitated just a fraction of a second. If I hadn't been watching for it, I might have missed it. Canaan Row," she said. "Maya picked it." "Maya?" I asked, keeping my voice neutral. "Yeah." I didn't mention that Maya was in Florida with her family posting beach stories all weekend. I didn't mention that the last time we'd gone to Canaan Row it had taken us 3 weeks to get a reservation, and even then we were seated near the bathrooms. Instead I said, "Sounds nice." She gave a tired smile. It was. After that she curled up on the far end of the couch, scrolling on her phone, and we didn't talk much. A rerun played on the TV, one of those reality shows she used to roll her eyes at. I watched her, not the screen. Not obsessively. Just studying. There was a chill between us that hadn't been there before. Like she was already somewhere else and her body had forgotten to leave with her. It wasn't just the dress. It wasn't just the cologne or the necklace or the smudged makeup. It was the way she carried herself when she came in, like a performance was ending and she was taking off the costume. I kept replaying it in my head even hours later when she was asleep. I lay in bed next to her, staring at the ceiling while she breathed softly beside me. Face turned toward the window, away from me. Her phone was on the nightstand, face down, just like it had been the last few weeks. Another new habit. Notifications buzzed silently from time to time, and she never checked them when I was in the room. Not anymore. I remember when we used to laugh about couples like that. People who lived together but still kept secrets. Now we were one of them. As I closed my eyes, a dull ache settled in my chest. It wasn't jealousy. Not yet. It was something quieter, heavier, like knowing the first tremor had hit and wondering how far down the cracks would go. I didn't say anything the next morning. She made coffee, kissed me on the cheek, and mentioned something about running errands. But I couldn't unsee the dress. I couldn't unsmell the cologne. Somewhere inside me I knew. I just didn't know what, yet. The red dress wasn't the beginning, I know that now. It felt like the moment everything cracked wide open. Sure, but the truth is, things had already started slipping months before. I just didn't want to admit it. I told myself stories, filled in gaps, patched over weird behavior with trust, or something close enough to it that I could sleep at night. But in hindsight, everything makes too much sense. Like a mystery novel where the twist was obvious all along, and you hate yourself for missing it. It started small, almost invisible. One night, Morgan moved her phone off the kitchen counter and set it face down next to her plate during dinner. She said she was expecting an important email from work. Fair enough. But then it happened again the next night. And again. Always face down. Always with the screen dimmed so low I couldn't see a thing, even if I had wanted to. First, I laughed it off. Thought she was being overly professional. She had gotten a new manager a few months back. A guy named Jordan, I think. Mid-30s. Married, maybe. I don't know why I remember that detail now. Then came the passwords. I wasn't snooping. Never have been that guy. But one night, I grabbed her iPad from the living room to look up a recipe we'd bookmarked together months earlier. Locked. New password. I asked her, half joking, "Did you change it on me?" She looked up from her book and said, "Yeah, IT said it was safer." Then she turned the page and didn't elaborate. That's when the gut feeling started. You know, the one. It's not loud at first. Just a quiet pressure behind your thoughts. A knot that doesn't come undone, no matter how you distract yourself. It doesn't yell. It waits. That week, I noticed she was texting more, but laughing less. Morgan used to be animated when she texted her friends. She'd read messages out loud, even joke with me about what people said. But lately, she'd go quiet. She'd chuckle to herself in the bathroom, then come out and pretend nothing happened. Sometimes I'd walk in to grab something and the screen would vanish mid-message. Once or twice, I caught her turning the phone slightly away from me as I passed by. I never called her out on it. Didn't want to seem paranoid. That's the thing, when you're with someone long enough, you want to give them every benefit of the doubt. Even when it makes you feel crazy. Then there was the lingerie. One night while putting away laundry, I found a new set, lace, jet black, price tag still attached. I smiled at first. Thought maybe she had something planned. Anniversary coming early? A surprise getaway? I even left a note on the mirror the next morning. Something cheesy like, "Can't wait for the grand reveal." She didn't bring it up once. A week passed. Then two. The lingerie disappeared from the drawer, and I never saw it again. Not on her. Not in the wash. Nowhere. That was the first real silence between us that I couldn't explain away. And then there was the bracelet. She wore it on a Sunday afternoon. We were at the farmer's market. It was silver, engraved with a cursive RM. Not her initials. Not mine. When I pointed it out, she smiled like she didn't hear me right. "Oh, that?" she said, glancing at it like it had just appeared on her wrist. The lady at the stall said it was part of the design. Probably just a brand logo. But that bracelet vanished by Monday. I never saw it again. By now, you're probably wondering why I didn't say something. Why I didn't push harder. I've asked myself that same question 100 times. The truth? I think I was scared of the answer. Because if I was wrong, it would make me look paranoid. But if I was right, well, that would mean my marriage was quietly unraveling. And I wasn't ready for that. Then came the work trips. Morgan's job had always been local. She managed accounts, handled clients through calls and emails, maybe a once-a-year conference in-state. So when she started packing bags for 2-day meetings in cities we'd never talked about before, my radar lit up. I asked her once, "Why do you need to go in person? Couldn't you just Zoom in like usual?" She smiled and said, "Some clients want FaceTime again. Old school types. You know how it is." And that would have been enough if she didn't come back one weekend with a scratch just above her collarbone. I saw it while she was getting ready for bed. A thin, diagonal line. Not deep, but distinct. Fresh. "What happened?" I asked, trying to sound casual. She glanced in the mirror and ran a hand over it. "Oh, that?" Bumped into a cabinet door at the hotel. "Those things swing fast." She said it like someone reading off a grocery list. Then turned off the light and got in bed. I stared at the ceiling for a long time that night. I started checking our bank account more often after that. Not out of mistrust, but because little things started to vanish. Money would shift. Small withdrawals at places I didn't recognize, boutique hotels, art galleries, reservation apps we didn't use. One charge stood out. A lease payment. A second one, not ours. When I brought it up, Morgan said she was co-signing for a cousin. "Just until she gets on her feet," she said. "I didn't want to stress you out." I nodded, heart pounding. The cousin lived in Idaho. The lease was in Charleston. I should have asked more. Should have demanded more. But every time I got close, she gave me just enough to walk me back to silence. Just enough eye contact. Just enough kindness. And I let her. I didn't realize it then, but she was constructing something, a second narrative. A parallel timeline. And I wasn't written into it. Every late night. Every silent laugh into a phone. Every day trip that didn't leave a paper trail. They weren't accidents. They weren't temporary. They were design. And when I close my eyes now, I can see it so clearly, the distance, the rehearsed lines, the calculated explanations. She wasn't just slipping away. She was stepping into someone else's life and leaving me behind like a forgotten coat. The worst part? I wanted so badly to believe her. I gave her every out. Every excuse. I defended her to friends who noticed, to my own doubts, to that gnawing voice in the back of my head. But deep down I knew. The night of the red dress wasn't the beginning. It was just the moment I finally stopped pretending. There's a moment when doubt dies, when what used to be paranoia hardens into certainty. Mine came at 6:14 a.m. on a Sunday. Morgan was still asleep beside me, her back turned, one hand curled beneath her chin. She looked peaceful. Beautiful, even. And for a second I just stared at her, wondering how many other mornings she had woken up beside someone else, wearing that same expression. The phone buzzed on the nightstand. Not her personal one. That was face down, as always. This was the second phone, the work line. She'd gotten it a few months ago, around the time she said her company was restructuring client communications. At the time, it made sense. Or I wanted it to. She said it was temporary, that it was only for business, that she barely used it. And yet, she kept it closer than anything else. I had never seen it unlocked. Never seen her answer a call in front of me. And she never, not once, left it unattended. Until that morning. The screen lit up. A message previewed on the lock screen. "Hope you don't regret last night. Next weekend, just us." Below that, a mirror selfie popped up. It took me a second to recognize her. It was Morgan in the red dress. Her lips slightly parted, posing like she used to when we first started dating. But in the mirror's reflection, behind her, there was the faint outline of a man. Shirtless. His face half obscured by the camera flash, but his hand was on her hip. My heart stopped. It wasn't suspicion anymore. It wasn't a bad feeling or a vague intuition or a breadcrumb trail I could still ignore. It was proof. And suddenly I felt cold. Not angry. Not even heartbroken. Just still. Like my mind had shut off a faucet I didn't realize was running, and all that was left was silence. I didn't wake her. I didn't scream or shake her awake or throw the phone across the room. I got up, walked quietly to the hallway, and dressed in yesterday's clothes. Grabbed my keys, wallet, and a jacket. My hands were steady, which surprised me. I think I always imagined that if something like this ever happened, I'd fall apart. But when the lie finally collapses, there's nothing left to hold up. All you can do is walk through the wreckage. I sat in the car for a few minutes, staring at the address attached to the message, a cottage an hour and a half out of town. Morgan had mentioned the area before. Said it was too quiet for her taste. I started the engine and drove in silence. No music. No news. Just the rhythmic hum of the tires on pavement and the occasional chirp of an early morning bird. The further I got from the city, the heavier the feeling in my chest became, not dread exactly. More like inevitability. I didn't need to go there. I already knew. But some part of me needed the visual. I needed to see it with my own eyes, the way you need to visit a grave to believe someone's really gone. The road narrowed as I neared the address. Winding turns, tall trees on both sides, sunlight filtering through the branches in streaks. Finally, I reached the place, a small, ivy-covered cottage tucked behind a hedge of overgrown shrubs. Secluded. Quaint. Romantic. I pulled over and cut the engine. There were 2 mugs on the porch railing, one plain, the other stained with lipstick. Red. The same shade Morgan had worn that night. Through the window on the 2nd floor, I saw movement. She was there. Morgan. Wearing one of those oversized sweaters she used to borrow from my closet, laughing, then disappearing from view as someone pulled her backward, gently like it was nothing. My jaw clenched, but I didn't move. I didn't storm the porch or ring the bell or make a scene. I just sat there, watching. The sunlight hit the window in just the right way, and for a split second, I saw my own reflection in the rearview mirror. Pale. Expressionless. A man who had just confirmed everything he didn't want to believe. I sat there until the numbness wore off, replaced by something clearer, resolve. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't a moment of weakness. She had built an entire world without me. A second home. A second identity. And she wasn't sorry. Not yet. I backed the car away slowly and turned toward the main road. My hands trembled only once at the stop sign, but I gripped the wheel tighter and kept going. Back home, the house felt smaller. Quieter. She was gone by the time I returned, probably pretending to be out shopping or grabbing brunch with Sarah. It didn't matter. I walked into the bedroom and opened the safe. 9 months ago, I had started keeping a file. *TS. Bank records. Conversations. Reservations. I didn't know why at the time, just a feeling. But something in me knew I'd need it one day. That day had arrived. I printed the selfie. Archived the message. Downloaded the metadata. The timestamp matched her last work dinner. She had lied with such ease. It made me wonder how many times I had kissed her while she was still wearing the scent of someone else. As I stared at the photo again, a strange thought hit me. She looked happy. Not guilty. Not conflicted. Just happy. Laughing with a man whose face I couldn't fully see. And in that moment, I realized something deeper than betrayal. She wasn't trying to hurt me. She simply stopped thinking about me at all. It wasn't about revenge or resentment. I hadn't pushed her away or neglected her. She just wanted something else. And she had it. While I was still trying to figure out how to bring us back together, she had already moved on. Quietly. Permanently. I went into the kitchen and made coffee. Same routine. Same mug. Same view out the window. But everything had changed. I wasn't mourning anymore. I was preparing. Some people imagine revenge as a loud, explosive thing, shouting matches, thrown plates, broken furniture. Maybe that's what I expected too. But when the moment came, it was quieter than I ever imagined. No screaming. No confrontation. Just clarity. That same morning I got back from the cottage, I stood in the kitchen and made a list. Not a to-do list. A list of closures. Ties to be cut. Accounts to be emptied. Paper trails to be documented and stored. I wasn't going to lash out. I wasn't even going to argue. I was going to disappear from Morgan's story before she could rewrite it. The first thing I did was open the safe. I had started the file almost a year earlier, back when the signs were still abstract. Password changes. Late-night messages. The way she started smiling at her phone in a way she hadn't smiled at me in months. I didn't want to be that guy, the one who snooped or assumed the worst. So I started saving things *TS, receipts, hotel confirmations she forgot to delete. I kept them not because I was planning to use them, but because I needed a place to put the weight I was carrying. Now that file had a purpose. I uploaded everything to an encrypted drive, backed it up to the cloud, a USB, and a hard copy. I labeled each folder by date, kept everything organized. Not because I thought I'd need to present it in court necessarily, but because I needed to see the entire picture for myself. There was no ambiguity anymore. She wasn't confused. She wasn't trapped. She was careful. Strategic. So I became strategic too. I contacted my attorney first, Martin, a quiet, discreet man I'd worked with once when helping my parents settle their estate. I told him I needed to prepare a full divorce filing, not a conversation, not a warning, not a we need to talk moment. I wanted it ready, signed, and loaded. Are you sure you don't want to sit down with her first? Martin asked. No, I said. This isn't about dialogue. It's about documentation. He paused, then nodded. I'll get the paperwork ready by Friday, he said. You'll need to review everything, sign in person. If we move quickly, she'll be served early next week. Not served, I said. I'll leave it. You sure? I'm sure. The next day, I transferred the majority of our joint savings into a trust account I had quietly opened months earlier under my mother's name. It wasn't shady. Every dollar was accounted for. But I knew Morgan would try to position herself as the victim, that she'd claim emotional damage, confusion, entrapment. I wasn't going to let her muddy the water with crocodile tears and a curated Instagram caption. This was chess now, not checkers. I reviewed the house deed. My name only. She'd insisted on that years ago, saying it was easier for loan applications. At the time, it felt like trust. Now, it felt like insurance. The following night, I went through the house slowly, room by room, and removed every item that was personally mine: photos, childhood keepsakes, gifts from my late father. Anything that mattered emotionally. I boxed them carefully and stored them at my brother's place an hour away. Morgan was gone again that evening. Dinner with a friend. No name. No timeline. I didn't ask. I didn't care. If she noticed anything missing when she came home, she didn't mention it. By Wednesday, I had everything lined up. The evidence, the financials, the legal documents. The letter. I spent more time writing the letter than anything else. But in the end, I scrapped it. Words felt too small. Too fragile. What could I say that wouldn't be twisted into some post? Instead, I printed a single page that said, "This is not an act of anger. This is an act of peace. Keep everything you've built. I'm taking what I came with: my name, my time, and my silence." I placed it in a sealed envelope with the divorce petition, a printed index of the supporting evidence, and a flash drive containing the digital files. I left it on the bedroom dresser, neatly aligned with the edge of the mirror. On top of it, I placed my wedding ring. I stood there for a long time, staring at the ring, not because I missed what it represented, but because I finally felt the weight lift. No ceremony. No closure. Just a final breath and the sound of the front door clicking shut behind me. That night, I didn't sleep on a friend's couch or check into a hotel. I went to the lake. It was a place I used to visit before I met Morgan. A stretch of silence outside the city, surrounded by pine and silence. I parked at the edge of the trailhead, rolled down the windows, and just breathed. No notifications. No half-truths. No rehearsed lines whispered over candlelight. Just me. And the quiet. The next morning, I turned my phone back on and saw 12 missed calls. 3 voicemails. 1 text. "Jeremy, please, just call me." That was it. No apology. No admission. Just panic. She hadn't found the letter yet, clearly. Or maybe she had, and this was her scrambling to take control of the narrative before it could slip away. I didn't respond. I wasn't playing her game anymore. Later that afternoon, Martin confirmed the paperwork had been logged and that Morgan had not yet attempted to contest anything. He asked if I wanted to lock my social media, alert close friends, or prepare a statement. No, I told him. Let her fill in the blanks. The thing about disappearing is, people expect noise. They expect you to scream, cry, lash out. When you don't, it unnerves them. They feel exposed. Off script. I wanted that silence to haunt her. I wanted her to realize day after day that I wasn't coming back to explain myself, and that no one else was going to do it for me. That week, I deleted every shared calendar, disabled all connected apps, removed my profile from every smart device in the house. I left no trace. She could keep the house if she wanted. The furniture, the wine fridge, the Pinterest-perfect kitchen she never used. I didn't want revenge. I wanted her to see what it felt like when something real vanished, without warning, without explanation, the same way she had done to me. A quiet exit isn't for cowards. It's for those who know the fight isn't worth having. Because the truth wins on its own. Eventually. 2 days after I left, I rang the bell at a house I hadn't visited in nearly a year. Morgan's mother, Susan, opened the door slowly, cautiously, like she already knew something was coming but didn't know from which direction. She looked older than I remembered. Tired, somehow, like she'd aged out of optimism. "Jeremy," she said, her voice hesitant. "Hey," I replied. "Sorry for dropping by like this." A beat passed. Then, with a sigh, she stepped aside. "Come in." It wasn't supposed to be a confrontation. That wasn't why I'd gone. I wasn't looking to fight or to make sense of things that had long since stopped making sense. I just wanted one thing: confirmation. That all of this, everything I had been through, hadn't just appeared out of nowhere. I needed to know where it started. The house looked the same: floral couch, crocheted throws, faint scent of lavender and lemon cleaner. It was sterile but warm, like a home trying to prove it was one. And for a moment I thought, maybe this was the last normal place left. "I won't stay long," I said, as she led me into the living room. "I figured," she said quietly. "Want coffee?" "No thanks." She sat down, folded her hands in her lap. Her eyes scanned my face like she was trying to guess how much I knew. I didn't make her guess. I pulled out a photo, printed, not digital. The one from the mirror. Morgan in the red dress. The outline of the man behind her just barely visible. I set it on the coffee table and slid it toward Susan without saying a word. She looked at it. Her face didn't change. She didn't flinch. She didn't even blink. "I've seen this," she said. That stopped me. "What do you mean?" Her gaze remained fixed on the image, but her voice was steady, almost clinical. "She showed it to me. Weeks ago." A bitter laugh caught in my throat. "She showed you? Just what? For fun?" "She was nervous," Susan said. "Scared, I think. Not of what she was doing, scared of getting caught. She didn't know how to end it." "And you didn't say anything?" Silence. "I'm not your son," I added. "You didn't owe me loyalty. But you knew." "I did." I waited. I don't know what for. An apology, maybe. Some admission of guilt. Some trace of remorse. But all she said was, "Morgan came to me months ago. She said she didn't feel rooted anymore. She was confused about who she was, what she wanted. She asked me how to protect her assets if things fell apart." "That's what she was thinking about?" I asked. "Her assets." "She wasn't trying to be cruel," Susan said. "She was just preparing." I shook my head, laughed once, bitterly. "Must run in the family." At that, her eyes finally met mine. "You're angry," she said, not accusingly, just stating a fact. "Wouldn't you be?" "No," she said, "because I've been on both sides of it." And then I understood. Not just Morgan. All of it. "You knew," I said. "Not just about Morgan. You've done this too." Susan didn't deny it. "I was married twice," she said. "Neither of those men were kind. Not in the ways that matter. I learned early on that sometimes survival looks like betrayal. Morgan grew up watching me do what I had to do. Not because it was right, but because it was necessary. When her father left, I didn't chase him. When my second husband cheated, I didn't fall apart. I negotiated." She paused, folded her hands tighter. "I taught her how to survive. But I never taught her how to be honest." That landed like a punch I wasn't expecting. All this time, I'd been trying to decode Morgan. Her choices, her lies, her other life. But maybe she hadn't invented any of it. Maybe she had simply inherited it. "Why didn't you stop her?" I asked. "Why didn't you tell her she was making a mistake?" "Because she wouldn't have listened," Susan said softly. "And because, deep down, I think I was proud. She was playing the game better than I ever did." I stood up. I couldn't sit there anymore. Couldn't breathe in that room with its stale warmth and generational secrets. "She didn't just cheat, Susan," I said. "She built another life. She rewrote who she was. I didn't even get to be the villain in her story. I was just cut from the script." "I know. You're not even sorry, are you?" "I'm sorry it ended like this," she said. "I'm sorry it hurt you. But I'm not surprised. Morgan is who she is. She learned it here. There it was, the final truth. Morgan hadn't stumbled into betrayal. She had been trained for it. Coached. Not with malicious intent, but with a kind of quiet, generational efficiency." I looked down at the photo again. The red dress. The other man. The smirk on her face that no longer held any guilt. Just satisfaction. "She ever say his name?" I asked. Susan didn't answer. I nodded. "That's what I thought." I picked up the photo, slid it back into my folder. I didn't look at Susan again as I walked to the door. But before I left, I said one last thing. "Next time she asks you for advice, tell her this. It's easy to start over when you think no one's watching. But some ghosts have good memory." I didn't wait for a response. Outside, the sun was sharp and cold. I climbed into my car, turned the ignition, and felt the heat of everything I just learned settle in my chest like ash. People talk about betrayal like it's a moment, climax, a break. But it's not. It's a root. And in Morgan's case, it didn't start with me. It started long before, passed down like a story with no ending. A blueprint for survival written in secrecy and silence. But I wasn't part of that blueprint anymore. and I wasn't going to be her next draft.